All right, guys, today we're going to be reacting to CNN panel explodes after polls show Kamala Harris losing to Trump. Let's jump in.
A step back and sort of point out we've kind of been here before. So August 13th, how far were the polls off in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin? And this is in 2016 and 2020. Trump was estimated both times around and by significant margins. Take a look here. In 2016, the average poll in those states that I mentioned, those Great Lake battleground states, Trump was underestimated by 9 points on average at this point in 2016. How about 2020? It wasn't a one-off. Look at this. He was underestimated by 5 points on average. And, of course, Kamala Harris's advantage in those New York Times Siena College polls were 4 points in each of these key battleground states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. The bottom line is this. If you have any idea, if you're a Kamala Harris fan and you want to rip open the champagne bottle, pop that cork, do not do it. Donald Trump is very much in this race. If we have a polling shift like we've seen in prior years from now until the final result, Donald Trump would actually win. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I am saying that he is very much in this ball game based upon where he is right now and compared.
He need to throw that qualifier, because inside the CNN, they're probably going to eat him alive.
That's where he was in prior years.
We certainly heard the Harris campaign saying we have to keep fighting.
Absolutely.
This is definitely not over. All
wow,
right. Let's talk about enthusiasm and how that translates actually. We are quite a ways out, again, 3 months about.
Yeah, you know, yesterday I was mentioning, you know, the enthusiasm for the Democratic ticket was up. Yep. But that enthusiasm is not the same thing as going out to actually vote. And there's a different question, which essentially says, how certain are you actually going to go out and vote? And this is the top range. Almost certain to vote. Again, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. This is among registered voters. Look at this. Look at Kamala Harris now compared to where Joe Biden was back in May. In fact, 62% of Joe Biden voters said they were almost certain to turn out and vote. Now,
it's gone down.
It's actually gone down a little bit. I would call this in the same general area at 61%. But it's basically unchanged. And look at Donald Trump. He was at 58% in May. He's actually gone up a little bit now. He's at 60% now. Again, basically no real change. So the bottom line here is, yes, there may be more enthusiasm for Kamala Harris, but the fact is we're not seeing that necessarily translate in the almost certain vote. And one little other note, Sarah, I will note this. Donald Trump is more popular today than he was on August 13th in either 2020 or 2016. So the bottom line is, yes, Kamala Harris is doing better in the polls, but there's a long way to go. The polls can shift. The almost certain to vote hasn't actually shifted, and Donald Trump is more popular than he was at either 2016 or 2020 at this.
Well, that's crazy. Personally, I think it is I'm surprised, man, that channel like CNN and a lot of these ABC, MSNBC, NBC, CBS, they just openly just are biased. This is insane. Like, you see the lady saying like, "Oh yeah, but we listening to Kamala, she's really working hard." Like, wow, how can you? How are we gonna do this, man? I don't know. I mean, it's a very hard. And what I'm thinking about a lot of these polls, what I noticed in the last year is these are people that have landlines, though. Landlines, old people, they're not even young people at all, not even millennials. I receive a call from a pollster because I have a landline now because of my current job, and it was not even for me. It was an old guy that used to have that number. Crazy.
Showing Kamala Harris up by 4 percentage points in each. Now, we should point out that they are all within the margin of error, which range actually from 4 to 4.5 points. So they are still technically tied.
But, part of the discussion over the course of this last 10 months has been about young voters, whether they can sort of overcome some of this frustration that they have, particularly around the Gaza issue. And I'm wondering if you see, John, that these young voters see Vice President Harris as aligned with Joe Biden. Does she carry that burden, I guess, that Joe Biden has had with young voters over the Gaza issue? Or do they see her as a clean slate? You sort of touched on this, but I'm wondering if you're seeing that in your conversations.
I think we get a much better answer to that question when people return to campus in just a few weeks, which is why I think the vice president has a tremendous opportunity with the Democratic convention next week to try to tee this up. There were two big reasons. Young voters in my travels over the last year were just apathetic about Biden. They agree with him on the abortion issue, LGBTQ rights, the climate, and other things. They're mad, furious, angry about Palestine. They think the president has green-lighted a lot of Israeli content conduct that they find reprehensible. But they also had no connection to him because of his age. No connection at all. The younger part, the vibrant part, seeing the vice president out there, her deciding to go on a TikTok, that has helped. Is it enough? That's the question. For the younger voters who have made the Israel-Hamas conflict a cause, that's her challenge. How do you get enough of them back? Because you know the numbers, and Arab-American voters. But Michigan, Georgia, one of the reasons those states went Democratic are younger voters. She's made progress. Is it enough? Big question.
No, she probably hasn't made enough. I mean, let's just keep it real.
Well, the thing that, you know what's crazy? The thing that young people, they're only going to vote Democrats is crazy, because that means that they are certainly know that their system in place is to make sure these kind of demographic, they just go lefty, right? They have the propaganda machine just ready to make sure these sectors of demographic, they just simply go lefty. This and that's a very good excuse to make sure we can modify some of these fundings that we send to the colleges. If you're not taking Americanism and you are trashing the country, you know, we don't do anything, but we pull out the money. We're not gonna put up with this. The same way a lot of these lefties, they use some of these taxes, we have to use it in our favor as well. We have to use the legal process just to push back. And a lot of these young, actually Gen Z and now millennials, they're moving more conservative. The males that is, they're moving more conservative, and they can understand what is the war about. And they see Trump as a embodiment of the masculine figure. So I don't know where these people are getting these talking points.
I missed where they questioned her ethnicity. I must have missed when Democrats called her low IQ and stupid, and all of the litany of awful insults that Donald Trump has levied against Kamala Harris since she's been in the race.
But did you miss when she couldn't even get a couple percentage points in 2020 to make it to the first primary?
This isn't the first time Donald Trump
She wasn't wildly popular.
It doesn't matter. She's the vice president of the United States, and she's beating Donald Trump right now. So. But what also we are
all
not,
that matters is
what
what
also
happens
we're
on November 5th.
is that Donald Trump's history of insulting women is very long. As a matter of fact,
and her history of failing is long as well when it comes to these policies that
how
matter.
many times when he was at the bully pulpit, he insulted women journalists repeatedly, including you, Abby, who he also called stupid, which you're not. You went to Harvard, and you are far.
See, this is the problem. You see what I'm saying? Oh, this is emotion. They're using a voting block to use their emotion to vote. See, this is the embodiment of a problem with American politics. Nothing about policies. Is that because she's for the color and this and that, we shouldn't even criticize her, because you criticize her, you're racist. This is the problem right here.
Far from that. And this is what Donald Trump does. He doesn't like to be held accountable. So because he is now in a position where he now is being held accountable for what he said, we know already that he has a history of being a sexist, and now he cannot
This is base
grapple
management.
with the fact.
These are not the arguments that are actually effective for Kamala Harris.
Oh,
if you
no?
look at the
Why is
recent,
she up
for
11
example,
points?
Reid Hoffman's group Blueprint has described what is effective for Kamala Harris. What is effective for her is taking positions that are the positions that would be endorsed by Joe Manchin and by Bernie Sanders, being perfectly down the line. I will protect Social Security and Medicare. It is not actually attacking Trump. What you guys are doing right now is, helpful base management right now, but it actually isn't something that moves the needle. What you see is actually this kind of base management doesn't actually have much of a material effect. Anti-Trump arguments are actually so played out, so tired.
He has a point. I think they're not seeing the big picture. They think that everybody's a female. They think about these type of argument that all of a sudden I'm going to categorize Trump as a bad guy because he's mean and says bad things about women. That's stupid. I mean, she's running for the president of the United States. We're thinking about how she's going to confront Pippin Jen and, Xi Jinping, I'm sorry, Vladimir Putin, even the European Union, a lot of these South and Central America. I mean, how are you going to stand up to these guys? You can't even stand up to some simple criticism. I mean, these people are waiting for Kamala Harris to win because in that way they can do whatever the hell they want. I mean, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. I have a family. I'm thinking about my family. I'm thinking about my community, my country. And Kamala's policies are not even that good. It's the same policies or worse than Joe Biden. And not only that, she's going to become the nominee of the Democratic Party without one vote. The people that like to talk about democracy. The people's vote, every vote need to be counted. Every vote need to be counted. You remember that? They used to say that all night during election night. Every vote should count. Every vote should count. Every vote should count. So your vote didn't count during the primary, certainly. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I will see you in the next one.